The other big news from the month of August, this not happening on the ice, but happening off the ice, and something that a lot of people are going to be very excited about. The Penguins are relaunching their team Hall of Fame, and they're doing it better than ever. Before, they'd induct members, and you'd say, all right, well, we know now that this person, whether it be a builder, whether it be a player, whether it be a contributor, this person is a Penguins Hall of Famer. But there was no physical area in the arena. There was no physical Hall of Fame. That changes. They're bringing it back. They're creating this Hall of Fame in PPG Paints Arena. It's a lot of good news. And for those that don't know, there were 20 members inducted to the Penguins Hall of Fame before they shut that down a little over a decade ago. 20 members in the Hall. That includes Mario Lemieux. I saw when they announced it and said, here are the first 10 members that are going to be inducted into this reinvented Penguins Hall of Fame. Everybody's like, Mario? Where's Mario? He's already in it. He's among the 20 members that are already in the Penguins Hall of Fame, but there are 10 that will be inducted over the next 3 years, including former goaltender Tom Barrasso, former captain Ron Francis, one of the greatest of all time, Jaromir Jagr, will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. He was still an active player when they were doing this previously. Larry Murphy will go into the Hall. Chris Kunitz, the one kind of recent member of the Penguins that will be headed into the Penguins Hall of Fame. Kevin Stevens, Scotty Bowman, Eddie Johnston, Jim Rutherford, and Ray Shero. I don't believe there's anybody out there that would argue any of those 10 being Penguins Hall of Famers. The biggest surprise to me was Chris Kunitz, just because it's been so recent and you don't think about, okay, yeah, well, let's start putting guys from the 2016, the 2017 Stanley Cup into the Penguins Hall of Fame, but that's where we're at. And as we go down through who else should potentially get in, there's a lot of members of that squad that it's really not an argument. They're going to be Penguins Hall of Famers. So congratulations to those 10. It's going to be fun to see in the arena an actual depiction of who is in the Penguins Hall of Fame. They're going to have a nice ode to Mike Lang at PPG Paints Arena, which I think all of us are excited for. They do have the Mike Lang media level. They do have a plaque up on that top level, but that's not really open to the public. So something for the public to enjoy, to be able to honor the legend that is Mike Lang. I'm excited they're going to do that. And I'm excited they're bringing in these 10. I mean, a lot of guys that are very deserving. Tom Barrasso just got inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame a couple of years ago. He is undoubtedly one of the biggest reasons the Penguins of those early 90s had the opportunity to win back-to-back cups, had the opportunity to potentially win 3 straight Stanley Cups with that team that was so good in 1992-93. You talk about a guy like Kevin Stevens, guys like Ron Francis. I mean, Jaromir Jagr, it goes without saying, but Scotty Bowman, Eddie Johnston, these guys are no doubters. And I think that's why it's nice that as soon as they reopened this Hall of Fame, they said, let's make sure that the people that are overdue to get in are in. And I think that's what they're doing here with those first 10 members. Now the question becomes, who else should get in? There's another no doubter that they have the 1-year rule that once that passes, Marc-Andre Fleury is the free space on the bingo card. And I think that the same could be said for Evgeny Malkin. The same is obviously going to be said for Sidney Crosby. And the same can be said as well for Chris Letang. Once that 1 year is up, they are automatically in the Penguins Hall of Fame. That is, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Most of them will probably have their number in the rafters. So, of course, they're going to make the Penguins Hall of Fame. Marc-Andre Fleury retiring after a very long, very prosperous career. And we're still seeing a lot of, thank you flower events. He had his retirement party out in Vegas, which looked like a lot of fun. And there were a lot of familiar faces in the pictures from that party. Craig Adams out there and Max Talbot out there as well. All guys that you look at and it just gives you the nostalgia, gives you the memories of that 2009 Stanley Cup team. So, obviously Marc-Andre Fleury is the free space on the bingo card. I wouldn't be surprised if he was added to the group of 3 or 4 that end up being inducted next season into the Penguins Hall of Fame. And then you have another guy that you see Jim Rutherford's in there. Badger Bob Johnson was grandfathered in from the previous iteration. Scotty Bowman is going in. Eddie Johnston is going in. Mike Sullivan is going to be a Penguins Hall of Famer. He's the Pens all-time wins leader with 409 in the regular season. In the postseason, all he did was win 9 straight playoff series to start his career with the Penguins. 2-time Stanley Cup champion, somebody that at the end of his tenure, it was time, right? They didn't get rid of him when he was great. They got rid of him when it was time to move on from, and I think that we can all agree on that. But his time as the head coach of the Penguins was very fruitful, and I think he got the most out of a lot of teams that didn't bring a lot to the table. Now, there are times where he didn't get enough out of a team that should have been better. But I think you look at Mike Sullivan, he is the pillar of what Penguins coaches are in the Sidney Crosby era. Obviously, I'm not going to put him ahead of Badger Bob Johnson. Be hard to put him ahead of Scotty Bowman, but he is definitely in a league with those coaches, and he definitely deserves to be in the Penguins Hall of Fame. And then there's one that I have a question about, and I want to ask you, the listener, to let me know in the comment section below. But with this new Penguins Hall of Fame, is there going to be a day? And is it going to be soon? Because they're going to go through a stage here where the Penguins aren't going to be that great, and there's going to be a lot of turnover, which is not going to produce a lot of Penguins Hall of Famers. But is there going to be a day soon, in the first 5 years, let's say, of this reinvented Hall of Fame, where Phil Kessel is inducted? Is Phil Kessel a Penguins Hall of Famer? If you look at the 30 members that have been announced to this point, and I get it, some of them aren't players, but if you look at the players among those 30 members that have been inducted to this point, none of them have played less than 5 years with the Penguins organization. Phil Kessel, I know it might not seem like it, but he only played 3 years from that massive trade in 2015 till they traded him away to Arizona and got P.O. Joseph in return. 3 years. Fewer than anybody announced for this Penguins Hall of Fame. But in those 3 years, not only was he one of the best players on the team, but he was one of the best players on a team that won back-to-back Stanley Cups. And in that third year, while they did fall short of the Washington Capitals, all he did that season was, put up 92 points. His 3 seasons in Pittsburgh, he was unbelievably successful. Not only did they win the Stanley Cup, not only did he score big goals in big moments, not only was he part of the famed HBK line in that 2016 run, but he is somebody who, for periods of time throughout that 3-year stretch, led the team. He led the Penguins organization. He was right up there with Evgeny Malkin. He was right up there with Sidney Crosby as far as some of the most productive players for some of the best teams in the Sidney Crosby era. So should he be inducted? Is that enough in that short period of time to have his name etched in history, along with members like Chris Kunitz, along with guys like Kevin Stevens, along with guys like Ulf Samuelsson? Is it enough? I would say so. I would say while he wasn't here for a long time, he was here for a great time, and he helped the Penguins to 40% of their current Stanley Cup load, and he was a key part in all of that. So it is a question. I think it's kind of borderline, but I would lean towards putting him in the Hall of Fame before a lot of other players that will be deserving, but will probably get there in due time, right? Other players like Patric Hornqvist. I think he's a Penguins Hall of Famer, but I think it might take a little bit of time. Players like Sergei Gonchar, same thing. Players like Brooks Orpik, same thing. Then there's some active players that I think probably have an argument to be made as well. Brian Rust, 2-time Stanley Cup champion, Mr. Elimination Game, how big he was in 2016 against the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 7. Jake Gensel is somebody that I would think that once all is said and done is going to potentially be in the Penguins Hall of Fame. Brian Dumoulin is another name that I think that not a lot of people will think about, but he will be brought back and he will be placed in the Penguins Hall of Fame for how good he was over the tenure that he had in the city of Pittsburgh. So this is a fun thing. I'm glad that they're bringing it back. It's something that when you look at the teams in the city of Pittsburgh, alumni and history is so important for all of them, but especially the Pittsburgh Penguins, a team that really enjoys bringing back a lot of its alumnus, bringing back a lot of the faces of the past, and the fan base embraces it with open arms. So this is something that I think should have always been there, but I'm glad that they're going to be able to get it built out, and they're going to be able to make it better than ever before. So I'm excited, and I'm sending congratulations to the 10 newest members of the Penguins Hall of Fame: Tom Barrasso, Ron Francis, Jaromir Jagr, Larry Murphy, Chris Kunitz, Kevin Stevens, Scotty Bowman, Eddie Johnston, Jim Rutherford, and of course, Ray Shiro.